Hi, thanks for joining me today. I hope you're doing well. I want to take a few minutes to just chat with you. I want to talk to you about net neutrality. More importantly, the recent reversal ruling that came down from the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, regarding net neutrality. About 2 years ago, February 26th of 2015, the FCC passed a regulation that stated that broadband providers cannot throttle or block internet traffic. They also stated that broadband providers cannot charge companies more money to access a fast lane type of network. The FCC 2 years ago said that's not going to happen. That's not going to be allowed. If you're providing broadband service, we're going to treat it like a utility. So your railways, telephone companies, your interstate highways, these are all treated as utilities that companies can profit off of them, but they have to maintain them and they have to make sure that the pricing structure is not composed in a way that's discriminatory or in a way that only select persons or operations can profit from it. On December 14th of 2017, the FCC decided to reverse that ruling. They decided to get rid of net neutrality. I think it's going to make sense to understand the proponents of net neutrality and then also the opponents of net neutrality. Let's start with the proponents. Basically, what the proponents are saying in a nutshell is that the internet should not be regulated whatsoever. It needs to be open it can be regulated, but not so much as to stifle growth, to stifle democratic ideals, collaboration throughout the world. The speed needs to be equal when the opportunity permits for all persons to be able to enjoy the internet, collaborate, build businesses and opportunities. Therefore, companies that manage the internet, they should not be able to slow down the network for companies that are smaller or don't have the same funds that larger companies may have to access faster network speeds for their customer base. Let's say, for instance, YouTube, Netflix. Let's say that YouTube, they just have so much money, right, being backed by Google or owned by Google, that they would be able to pay broadband companies for fast lane networks to ensure that YouTube's subscribers, visitors can access all of the YouTube content on a high-speed internet connection. Whereas if Netflix did not have the monies to pay these broadband companies, then their customers would get the same type of content from Netflix, their movies and whatever else Netflix decides to venture into. They would get access to that content, but on a slower network. So proponents are saying by doing that, people would have a better experience going to one company over another. Therefore, it would stifle competition. So if competition is stifled, then you're going to have fewer choices, fewer innovation in the area of the internet. They are also concerned with other things that could lead into if broadband companies were able to start controlling the information and how you receive it, the reliability on how you receive that information. December 2014 of 2017, the FCC reversed their ruling regarding net neutrality. Now let's look at the opponents of net neutrality. The opponents of net neutrality, what they're stating is that by not allowing broadband companies like Verizon, AT&T, by not allowing those large organizations that are building out this network backbone for the internet, adding fiber to it, etc., expanding it throughout the country, if they are not able to play with various different types of pricing structures, different types of business models, i.e. creating fast lanes for organizations that can pay that type of fee to ensure that their customers get fast connections to their content. The opponents are saying that if these broadband companies can't play around with those types of business models or pricing structures, then it hinders their ability to become more profitable so they can continue expanding the building of the internet backbone throughout rural America and other places throughout the United States. If they can't play with the different pricing structures and business models, what's the incentive to do that? They feel that it's not fair that they have to ensure that high-speed internet connectivity is made available to all types of businesses, all people, regardless of what they're streaming, to ensure that everyone has a holistic experience with the internet, with the speed, with the reliability. They don't feel that that's fair. They feel that it makes more sense for them to have an opportunity to play with different business models. If someone's downloading videos, then or a lot of videos, they should be able to create tiers for that. If a company is providing those videos, they should be able to create tiers for that as well, so they can profit. And that's pretty much their point. Now, my take on it is this right here. I understand both points. I get it. You know, if I had an organization and we spent a lot of money building out the internet backbone, installing fiber, we improved on technologies to ensure that customers can experience, or users of our service can experience reliable internet connections, I definitely, too, would want to be able to play with different business models so I can take advantage of my investment, the monies that was spent, to ensure that my shareholders can get maximum return. But I also understand what the proponents of net neutrality are saying as well. And what they're saying is that it shouldn't be hindered. Because if it's hindered, that's going to stifle growth. That'll stifle competition. That'll stifle innovation. It shouldn't be hindered because it can lead to broadband providers abusing their power or newfound authority. They can control the types of information the users of the internet are able to receive, which could control the way we think independently on subject matters, etc. So I get that. As it relates to net neutrality, I really feel that we have to go back to the ruling that the FCC did initially in 2015, February 26th of 2015. The most important thing that they stated in that particular regulation that they voted on and passed is that the broadband service providers are going to be considered quote-unquote common carriers. The reason why that's important is because internet service providers, they would be treated as railroad companies are treated. We saw the same thing with the telephone companies as well, the same types of regulations and restrictions. We've also seen that with our interstate highways, etc. Now that the internet, well, it's been used for this for quite a while now, but now that e-commerce is so huge on the internet, our lives are so connected to the internet, Facebook, Netflix, paying our bills, going to school online, eventually voting, all of that. Because our lives are so intertwined in the internet. I mean, heck, you can't even go to a restaurant and hang out with your family, or even if you went by yourself and just look at the table next to you. Instead of persons interacting with one another, they're sitting there on their phones looking at the latest Twitter tweet or Facebook post. So the internet is extremely important to our lives. My take on this is that broadband service providers have to be treated as a maintainer of a utility. and that is the networks that allow us to traverse across the internet. They have to ensure that the speed is reliable. They have to ensure that all persons and companies have equal access. As I stated before, I understand the concerns of the opponents, and the opponents are stating, look, we spent a lot of monies to build out this backbone. I understand that. But the problem is everyone throughout the world is using it. Society cannot afford to have a few companies controlling the speed, the river, kind of like Niagara Falls or the Rio Grande River or what have you. You can't control the speed and flow of the water because it starts to impact those that are further downstream. Okay? It starts to hurt those that are not able to as it relates to the internet, it would hurt those that would not be able to pay larger amounts of monies to ensure that their customers can get the best connection to their websites as possible. You can't do that. It'll stifle growth. We can't afford to have you also regulating that information, because if you're regulating that information, you can impact independent thought. Some of the companies that are controlling the internet, Verizon, Cox, and a few other organizations, they're also owned by media companies as well. So imagine if these companies can control the speed at which you can connect to data. I know me, if it takes more than 3 seconds for a website to come up, I'm usually out of there, unless it's just really something I need to get or see. So if you start to manipulate the type of data, or if you start being able to block traffic of certain companies or information, then now what takes place is that broadband providers are in a position to manipulate how you think about religion. They're in a position to manipulate how you would vote. And this wouldn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. Could you imagine if you owned a broadband company? I mean, just listen to this. If I owned a broadband company, if I wanted to, I could go and I could create a totally independent party called Me Fi Me whatever. Okay? And then what would take place is that I could ensure that that data is made available to everyone on the internet with no interruption at all. I mean, it's easy to get this information. I'm making sure that persons that are coming to my company-owned websites, they're able to get there quickly, and I can run advertisement on my websites showcasing that. I can go and I can get into the business of Netflix, right? Where I own a media company and I create my own version of Netflix, and I slow down Netflix traffic. So that way, when you try to watch videos, the videos are delayed. It takes forever for them to come up, and I can ensure that my videos come up just fine. So then what takes place, you start coming to my site. So therefore, Netflix is charging a lower amount, let's say $7.99. Well, my website provides uninterrupted connectivity at a high speed. That means you can watch those videos, no buffering. I can now charge you $14.99. Why? Because you're paying for the experience. That means persons that are utilizing Kodi, I could block all traffic where that application can't reach any providers of that illegal content. Now, I know some of you may be saying, well, that's good. If it's illegal content, it's dealing with Kodi and illegal video streams and any other illegal type of activities out there. Well, that's good. That's good that that's blocked. Blocking it is the easy solution. What stifles the growth of technology is not learning how to allow the illegal activity through, and then learning how to put mechanisms in place that can cause individuals to use other sources for their entertainment. You see, that's how technology grows. That's how technology enhances. When you allow for persons to try to bypass the system, and then you start to try to create more entertaining or more efficient ways to get the same type of information to someone in a unique way that causes people, users, companies to want to pay more for that. But blocking traffic, throttling internet speeds, just so you can provide fast lanes or higher speed connectivity to companies that can pay, that will stifle innovation. It will stifle creativity. Now, that's my take on it. So this has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. This has something to do with just ensuring that governments around the world that are also going to be looking at the United States ruling on this and how the United States implements the reversal of net neutrality, they're going to also look at that, and they're going to make decisions on how they also support the same type of control for their broadband companies. And if we don't speak out to our politicians about this now, what will take place is that more and more countries will allow their broadband companies to do the same thing, which will start to stifle growth and innovation throughout the internet and only reserve it for a select few. And I don't know about you, I would not want that at all. Because think about all the businesses that have started up with just $100, with a couple of little advertisements on Facebook, and they've been able to generate thousands and thousands of dollars. And some of those organizations have gone on to become multi-million-dollar businesses. Think if the broadband companies are able to start to stifle internet traffic, start to restrict the flow of internet traffic in favor of companies that are willing to pay more money for higher speed connectivities. Think about all of the unique businesses like Etsy, eBay, Netflix, all of those types of businesses that are future businesses like those types of companies that people are thinking of right now, that are thinking about new ways to improve how customers can get that content. Think if broadband companies start to restrict the flow of traffic on the internet. Think about how many opportunities will not be able to come to you as the consumer. So that's my take on it. Learn more about net neutrality. Do contact your politicians in your state, your city, and encourage them to reverse or put in legislation that can protect net neutrality. Oh, on a closing note, before I end this video, I do want you to know this right here, and I just thought about this. Also, there are a few states like Maryland and a couple of other states, and there's other states that also have bills in front of their legislature. They're actually taking a proactive stance or a reactive stance to the ruling that came down from the FCC, and what they're doing is encouraging their state legislators to actually vote in regulation that will require all broadband companies doing business in their state to support net neutrality, as the FCC stated it in February 26th of 2015. So that's very promising. So support your state legislators, encourage them to keep net neutrality in place, because it's not going to just be something that affects little small businesses or what have you. If net neutrality is done away with, it's going to affect the entire experience that users have on the internet for years to come.